So maybe we can get started with um, looking at actually how you first got started, maybe the first 6 months at beginning, with the moment when you decided, okay, I'd like to start being a content creator. I want to get on this road. How did that look like?
Yeah, it feels like it feels like a different life ago now, honestly, like it was so just for a bit of reference, I've been doing this now for God, how long has it even been? 5.5 years. And I'm coming up to my 5-year full-time anniversary. So that tells you guys how quick the transition kind of like happened. Um, I mean, I've been gaming my whole life. I'm 31 years old, just again for a bit of reference. Been gaming since the age of 4, so it was nothing like unnatural to kind of like me for for me to move into the space. I used to want to do professional gaming, so I used to want to be a COD pro gamer back in like the COD 4 Modern Warfare 2 days, like when esports was still very in its infancy, let's say, before it's the the giant powerhouse that it is now. I had to go to university, the usual stuff. I had to give that all up so I could focus on my studies, do a real career, as they said back then, and just focus on getting that all done. And then when I came back out the other side of university, I worked because I did a degree in events management. I worked for a couple of years, got some experience, and then a friend of mine, because streaming was obviously on the up, right? By 2018, it was starting to get quite big. Twitch was obviously like getting bigger and bigger all the time. And a friend of mine just said to me, "Why don't you just start streaming?" And I have the typical story that everyone else has: the potato PC, or they don't have the right equipment. Well, the right equipment for it, or just blue screening and not being able to do it, or like having a horrendous camera, not having the right mic for it. You know how it is as a starting streamer, right? So it was one of those things where it was like, okay, I'll do it, but I just obviously have no expectations. Like being a content creator is never really something that I foresaw myself like being or doing, but I did always have a passion of wanting to go into the gaming space somehow. So I started doing it just out of the off chance of my friend convincing me to do it. 6 months down the line, God, by then I don't even know kind of like how it happens. I just started playing like variety games, building up my specs bit by bit. We moved into, I remember doing like horror streams. I started like focusing on a niche in horror for a while. And I just started building up my presence as a brand. So rather than just streaming all day, every day, I'd be at work, and luckily I would drive for a living. So there'd be a lot of like breaks that I would take. So every time I would take a break, I'd like schedule my next like 3 tweets, or I'd do some like quote networking, or just kind of like get my name out there in a way. And I was just on the hustle all the time. Just because I just saw where it was going and it was starting to build. And when you're a new creator and you start getting them first couple of viewers in, you might get your first subscriber and you're like, hey, this is actually kind of cool. I can start earning some money through this. Forward track 6 months, and it just went crazy, really. I quit my job 8 months in. I was in a position, obviously, quite lucky to do so. I lived at home for quite a while, have a very supporting family, who supported me through it. And then, yeah, 5 years later, obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. Here we are having this conversation. So it's been a journey, bro. It's been a crazy journey.
When you mentioned just a few moments ago, you said that part of the hustle was like the networking. Maybe you could
Hmm.
share a little bit on the strategy that you use there to connect with people that could move you forward.
Yeah, networking is a very open term, and it depends on how you perceive it. Because a lot of people will go into the attitude of networking and try and create kind of like a forced engagement to feel like that they can progress their career. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're I don't know, let's put myself as an example. Like when I was creating COD content, if I was a COD creator and I'm just messaging a bunch of other COD creators just for random reasons, hoping that they would stop by my stream, that's kind of like a forced interaction. And then what you're doing there's kind of creating like a fake engagement for yourself, and not a very good reputation, really. Whereas instead, take time to find out what that person's about, maybe engage with a little bit of their content. And then if you find that they're kind of like replying to you, and as you're replying, and you find there's like a good vibe there, that's when you then can you can go and make the friendship. So I was making loads of friendships in the streaming world, generally taking the time just to have a look at people's like content, but also making sure that I was still focusing on my content. That's always the number one priority. But it really is no more than just creating friendships and like relationships in the industry that can just help to propel you as it would in any other business, whether that's with a brand, whether that's a product that you like, whether that's someone else's content, or just someone who you admire. Just make it a natural engagement. Tell them why you like their content, or just try and create that stepping stone to try and become friends. And then it doesn't feel forced after that. It just becomes a natural process. So
So you built quite a community at that point then.
Oh yeah, six months in, it was honestly for 6 months. Yeah, I still remember. Well, kind of like remember it in my head, but just I don't know really. It was it was kind of like a tornado. It just happened so fast. And I think the best part about it is that I went into streaming with no expectations. Right, I didn't expect to go full time. I had no idea how much money I was going to earn. I just did it because I loved gaming. I loved chatting to people, and it just became way more than that. Very, very like honored, blessed to have been in that position. But it's also because of a lot of hard work as well. So it was a mix of things.
Do you think those friendships that you built turned into like good collaboration opportunities? Is that something that you really spent time doing?
Yeah, it depends really. It depends on what kind of content that you do, and it also depends on um, how you want to obviously perceive yourself or want people to perceive you as a creator. So, like right now, I'm doing Fortnite content. A lot of people that I've made connections with over the last 4 years because I was a COD creator. Still play COD or they do like now wherever they're going. So, I've kind of like got into like a new market, and I'm making lots of like new friendships, but still always keeping my friendships from before because the game doesn't dictate who I'm friends with. That's on me. So I think it definitely leads to routes and avenues for like collaborations and like working together with some people and whatnot. But again, it just depends on what it is that you want to get out of a collaboration. I feel like something like that, it's always good to set a goal and like a plan in mind to say, hey, look, if I'm going to work with this creator, you have to also ask yourself, what is the point, right? What are you going to get out of it? Because that's your time, that's their time. And it's kind of like, yeah, you could play games together on a stream. That's fun if you want it to be just like as fun as that. But if you're looking to get more out of it, like, hoping to gain some exposure from their community or they gain a little bit of exposure from your community, just speaking to that creator or that person and being like, okay, at the end of this, what do we both get? How is this going to be worth both of our times? Because in this industry, people are very, very, very busy. And it's important that everybody knows exactly what they're getting out of, each opportunity. So
Looking for that mutual benefit, the symbiotic
absolutely,
relationship. Yeah.
100%.
So back in this first 6 month hustle, as you described
Yeah.
it, in terms of actually driving new traffic, trying to find organic ways of introducing people to your content, obviously what was made perhaps more relevant 5 years ago is not as relevant today. But
Oh,
for
yeah.
context, what was your strategy? Do you have a particular platform that you were like looking to engage new people in, or did you let people discover you through Twitch? Or maybe you could comment on that.
Yeah. So I will obviously say exactly as it is. How things 5 years ago couldn't be any further away than what it is right now. The streaming landscape has changed drastically in 5 years. In fact, it changes every week. So what's relevant this week isn't relevant last week. You know how it is. Obviously, in the social media world, the influencer world. 5 years ago, Twitch was still very, I still would say quite in its infancy. Obviously, it was still like a lot of people went there to watch streams, but it wasn't like crazy saturated like it is now. So you could be found a lot easier on Twitch. The exposure on Twitch was good. Twitter and Twitch, I would say, were my main ones alongside Discord on building a community on the other side. But I never really used to do any like clips or content unless it was purely for Twitter. Back then, I never did YouTube. TikTok, I don't think it even, I'm not sure if it even existed, but I certainly didn't know about it back then. So I really just focused on getting on a niche on Twitch. So that whether it's horror games or just like speedrunning games or whatever. And rather than just being known as a like gaming creator, so people coming through to see my gameplay, people came in because of the personality and because of who I was. And I was really starting to get like known because of that in the streaming world because I was very, I think a lot of people saw me as someone who was like very determined, very focused, someone who can see themselves being successful. And when people can see that, it radiates an aura, right? People want to be surrounded by people with good, positive aura and someone who, you're more likely going to support a streamer if you think, hey, this person's got their head screwed on and they know where they want to go. I want to stay here and be part of this adventure and journey versus somebody who's like, I don't really care what's going on. I'm not really bothered. Might be here in 6 months, might not. It is what it is. That if there's one thing that hasn't changed in the last 5 years, it's been my attitude to push, 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 keep going. There's been times this year where it's been, a little bit on and off because of the change to the whole landscape, but we can talk about that a little bit later. But definitely my strategy 5 years ago, I would say, was just get my personality out there, push through Twitch, build a niche, and use Twitter to really kind of like expand who I am. And I mean, Twitch back then used to have teams. If you remember Twitch teams, if you were around 5 years ago, and like You used to be able to like get a lot of recognition from like Discord communities. So yeah, it's really weird, man. Like saying that these days is really weird because the community landscape has changed so much. None of that really happens anymore. So it's
It's
crazy.
something that we've been, yeah, made aware of.
Yeah.
Twitch as a discovery platform, it's
Yeah.
just really, really difficult. Obviously, if you just browse
Yeah.
around Twitch, it has this, pretty simple sort from like,
Yeah.
you know, top most viewed to bottom. So if you are at the lower quadrant, it's so much more difficult for people to discover you unless they're willing to
Oh
scroll
yeah.
scroll for a long, long time. So
Yeah.
um, you know, maybe to comment a little bit on more modern strategies, then obviously we're seeing TikTok as a pretty good potential environment to have that virality, that quick exposure to a
Yeah.
piece of your content that maybe people can then follow you from and
Yeah.
engage in more of your content.
Yeah, I mean, oh, God, the modern way of growing as a creator, it's become it's become something where you've kind of got to be the all-in-one person now. So just streaming on Twitch or just doing this and just doing that is no longer enough because there are tools and there are people out there that are working so hard to be everywhere and doing everything that if you're not, someone else will be doing it. And I think COVID was the real reason and lockdown was the real reason of the huge surge so quickly in that we had obviously lockdown at the same time as streaming increasing. Didn't they have like a 900% increase of consumption in like content. So people were blowing up overnight and everybody wanted to become a streamer because everyone was stuck inside. And, a lot of people who started have just carried on because they found a new career and they found something that works for them. And, that's great for them. And I'm one of those people, actually. I found my blow up during lockdown. But coming out the other way, it's definitely not the same anymore because those people who used to watch your content now go back to their real lives. You no longer have that 900% increase anymore. So you have to figure out in this brand new saturated market that's been exploded by lockdown, how do you still remain relevant and how do you still get viewership? And obviously you don't have everybody at home anymore. So it's kind of like you're trying to do what you did before, but it's now 10 times harder. So whether that's YouTube shorts, YouTube long form, TikTok videos, building a presence on Facebook gaming, building your Discord community, posting your life on Instagram, making sure that your Twitter is always up to date and relevant, making sure that you're streaming a certain amount of hours so people don't forget about you. That's just me rolling it off the tongue in 5 seconds. And that isn't even probably half of what we do. So it's like, obviously not trying to scare anyone, but if you're someone who's very motivated and very on it and you want to be doing something dynamic and changing things up every single day, you will thrive in this industry. But in today's day and age, to really make it as a creator, you're going to want to be the all-in-one person. So you're going to want to be someone who can adapt to doing a long-form video. And it's funny that we have this talk right now, actually, because it's only now after starting to build my YouTube channel on Fortnite, because I moved to Fortnite around 2 months ago. I was never really someone who was confident with doing like long-form YouTube videos, but it's clear with the amount of saturation, the no discoverability, and like Twitch making constant bad decisions, I can't depend on Twitch anymore. The platform that's been keeping me going for the last 5 years. So I now have to expand. You may think, oh, he's been doing it for 5 years. He's set. He's good. And I promise you that is definitely not the case. We have to adapt. We have to keep going. We have to find new strategies. I've started streaming on Kick recently, built a whole new YouTube channel. And I've been working with my management team to make me more comfortable as a creator to know how to do long form videos. How can I make my short form videos explode? So to kind of like summarize everything, there is no set one way of doing it anymore. You have to watch the industry. You have to adapt alongside it. And if that's being like my position and being on nearly 70,000 followers on Twitch and being like, I have to at some point let that go so I can keep going and build something somewhere else. Sure, the last 5 years were great, but then 5 years aren't going to ride the next 5 years, right? You got to move with the times. So yeah. And I would say now more than ever, week to week, things change a lot. So yeah, keeping an eye out on trends and what's going on in the streaming world will help you a lot.
It's an extremely competitive environment.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I know
Yeah.
some of the figures of Twitch off the top of my head. To reach Twitch, you need like 3 CCV, so on average, 3 people watching you per stream.
Yeah.
You need to, keep this up for at least a month, maybe three.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if you manage that, you're already in the top 30% of all Twitch streamers with
Nuts,
just
isn't it?
an
Think about
audience.
it, yeah.
If
Yeah,
you manage 20, you're in the top 1% of all
yeah,
Twitch streamers, which is just crazy. It's a really, really
yeah,
skewed margin. But, you know, I suppose in some ways it does go to explain that like exponential lift off that you seem to have early on in
yeah,
your career, which just becomes addictive. Um,
yeah.
is there any kind of signal, any kind of point, like a definitive moment or statistic or realization when you went, "This is it. I can run with this now," in that first 6 month period?
Yeah, I think, and again, it depends on you as a person and what your life situation is. So obviously at the time, I was 26, not long come out of, well, a few years out of university, build up some experience and, still living at home, obviously looking at where my future was going. Didn't really make the most money in the job that I was in at the time. And I think I was working around 40 to 45 hours a week in this job. And I was streaming and doing content for about 20 to 25. And I remember a few months in, I looked at my revenue on Twitch and saw that my money I'd made more money from Twitch than I was in my regular job in a month. And that was doing it part time. And I was just saying to myself, I was like, my God, if this is what it's like part time, what's it going to be like full time? So I was like, okay, I'm not going to go too hot headed in this. I'm just going to wait out a few more weeks and see what happens. Obviously, it kept going. And I was like, right, I'm clearly onto something here. I've built my community to a point now where, I have a quite a dedicated following that's looking to support me. How can I transition? And rather than doing something crazy like quitting my job straight away, I went, you know what? I'm going to take a 2 week holiday. And I bulk used a lot of my holiday and just went full time for 2 weeks. I went, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to try and do like 40 to 50 hours of streaming a week, which I don't recommend doing anymore, by the way. That was obviously back then. Um, and I was like, let's see how it goes. And I did it for 2 weeks and I saw the revenue and it was just bonkers. And like, obviously I was hyping it up on social media. I was like, hey guys, I'm trying out, full-time streaming. If this goes really well, I could become a full-time creator. Suddenly all you supporters are like, we want this guy to be full-time. We love his content. We want him to be here more. Let's go and support him. So then your community comes through and they're like, full-time Stally. So it just kind of like, I built momentum. And then rather than just like praying, I kept building that momentum and using that break as an opportunity to build more momentum. So I kept doing that. And yeah, I just looked at how much revenue I earned in that 2 weeks and I just went, you know what? Honestly, I can't see myself not doing this. Like by that point, I was 6 to 8 months in, fully in love with it. I had the community there. They all assured me, they've got my back no matter what. Still obviously living at home at the time. My mum is super supportive. I was like, I've got nothing to lose. Worst comes to worst, I'll just go get another job. So yeah, I just went for it, bro, and I never looked back. And I said, here we are, right? So yeah,
It
yeah,
sounds like it made pretty clear, like, financial sense at that
it
point
did.
as
Yeah,
well. I
yeah,
think having the 2 week break is a fantastic idea just to go, "Well, is this something that I
yeah.
really want?" And to
Mhm.
actually test on that, what does it feel like? 'Cause obviously
Yeah,
doing something part-time, moving to full-time, there's a huge step up in the amount of, like, responsibility that you take on that becomes you have to be more, diligent, regimented in
yeah.
some ways, disciplined in
Especially
order
if you've
to
got like a mortgage and kids and a car and loads of overheads, right? Yeah, that's a lot. Obviously, in my position, at the time I had no mortgage, I had no kids. I had a car, but I could finance that anyway. So I was in a position where I could do it. But you have to really just sit down and work out, okay, how much money would it physically take for me to do this? And what are my financial positions at? And if I don't make enough money for a few months, can I survive? So yeah, you have to be really smart before you make that transition over.
and so thinking about that, you know, um, measured risk that you decided to
Yeah.
take, um, talking about a relevant topic today, which is Kick versus Twitch.
Mhm.
And there's obviously a lot of talk going, okay, do I move from Twitch to Kick exclusively? Can I stream both at the same time? And then there's been some controversy over whether Twitch is going to allow you to stream on both platforms simultaneously. Do you have any
Yeah.
comment on that? Because this is obviously a really hot topic at the moment.
Yeah, so I've been very clear on my opinions about this on social media. Um, over the last 5 years, I mean, over the last 10 to 15, because I've been watching Twitch since it was JTV, Justin TV for anyone who's been around for long enough. I've always been like the hashtag Bleed Purple crew, right? I've always backed Twitch. They created a life. Well, they helped me create a life for myself. Kind of like helped me build up this community. But you can see, and I think the correlation comes in from the moment that Amazon took over, just how much it's been about the money and how much less it's been about the creator experience and what we're getting from our viewers. They still offer one of the lowest cuts to the industry at 50/50, which I think is shambolic. Even at 70/30, I think still then it's not the best. But 70/30, I would say should be an industry standard for a creator. There's no way you should be splitting half of your subscription with the streaming platform. I don't think that's right at all. When it comes to like their ad revenues and stuff, they expect a lot and don't really pay that much. And if you just look at the decisions that they're making over the last couple of years, and anyone who's watching this, by the way, just go have a look at Twitch's last couple of tweets and go have a look in the comments, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The community is frustrated. We are sick of being treated as a transaction rather than people who stream on their platform and have. But we've given them their position, right? What would Twitch be without its creators? It'd be nothing. And the decisions that they constantly make, which you can clearly tell are from higher ups, are just not good enough, really. And when they do their podcasts and they try and justify the decisions that they make, they don't answer the questions. They just kind of like banter about the question and just talk a bunch of mumbo jumbo rather than actually giving us the answers that we're looking for. So unfortunately, we've come to the point where Twitch is no longer what it used to be. It's clearly a place where it's mostly revolved around the money. And unfortunately, that's what happens when industries blow up. And Kick is just giving that kind of refreshing feeling. I'm not saying obviously it's perfect because it does have a lot of its controversies, but as a creator, speaking from creator to creator, there is absolutely no excuse that you don't go on something while it's hot. End of the day, whatever's going on that platform or whatever is happening at like a higher level, if you're still benefiting as a creator, obviously to an extent, you don't want to be going on something that's obviously like too bad or anything, but something like Kick versus Twitch, for example, you're making a 95/5 cut, right? They're talking about bringing in salaries for some creators. There's more exposure on the platform. There's more of a chance to get your name out there on the platform. The 95/5 cut alone is nuts, bro. I mean, obviously this can only be made possible by a company like Stake, right? Because obviously they're a multi-billion-dollar company with endless amount of money that clearly don't care about the money. They just want market share. And they're doing this, buying out people like XQC, Amaranth, and all the big creators because they want to make a statement on Twitch and say, hey, we're here to stay. This is not another mixer. We're not going anytime soon. And if you're looking at what's going on with the Kick versus Twitch things right now, there is, in my opinion, there's no reason you shouldn't be on Kick right now. Like, you are, as a creator, doing yourself a disjustice, allowing Twitch to take 50% of your sub revenue for next to no exposure. Why not go onto a platform where exposure is a lot more open and earn a 95/5 split? There isn't really a reason why you shouldn't be doing that. So for me personally, just to give creators like my reasoning behind it, the one and only reason that I have not left Twitch yet because of our, what's the word for it? It's because of contractual obligations that I have to make. And that's through my team Fnatic and through some other things that I have to stream a certain amount of hours, obviously on the platform, so that partners are satisfied with a certain amount of things being tracked. That is it. God bless, swear to die, I would have left Twitch by probably months ago now if it wasn't for that. So, and I've been there as a partner for 5 years with a 70K following. That should tell you the state of how things are right now.
Pretty strong sentiment.
Very strong sentiment. I feel very strongly about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is coming from somebody like yourself who is a successful, well-established content creator.
Yeah.
Those just getting started, I'll make the assumption that there's no reason why they shouldn't be streaming on Kick.
Oh yeah, even more. Even more so. Their path to affiliation is way more achievable. There's no average viewer count. Again, 95/5 split. Just let that sink into your head for a second. They constantly say they're not going to be changing that. Obviously, we don't know, right? They could change it in the future. But let's say they even drop it to a 70/30. That's still more than what Twitch gives you and creates an opening right now, and I mean right now, to potentially chase your dream job. At a 95/5 split, if you make 400 subscribers, which is definitely achievable through gifted subs and stuff, for creators at a lot of levels, that's £1,600 a month, basically. That right there is probably more than a lot of other people are making in their day-to-day jobs, right? And that's through Kick income alone. So at theory, you could go full-time and be pretty comfortable in the, let's say, average daily household income at like 400 to 500 subscribers. Whereas on Twitch, you need over 1,000 to achieve the same goal. You see what I mean? Like It's opening the avenue for a lot more people to chase their dreams full time. And I said around a year or two ago, probably around 2 years ago now, that contracts are one day going to become the standard in the industry. And kicked that door open. I think it was about a month ago where there was a leak found saying that Kick are going to start rolling out contracts where they're going to pay creators that hit a certain threshold, like $16 an hour to stream on their platform. Probably by then you have to be exclusive, and that's understandable, right? You're earning an hourly wage. They're helping keeping you in that position. But that will be on top of everything you're making from revenue. And if you're a creator like myself who sees an opportunity like that, you can't pass that up. That right there is your bottom line sorted just by being on the platform. Everything I will then make on top of that from subs and stuff is just going to be extra revenue. That for me will allow me to go into my streams no longer having to mentally worry about my sub count and how much I'm earning a month. I'm sorted. My platform looks after me because they know I want to look after that. And that's the relationship that's starting to come in, because I feel like creators have been really under the mud for a long time. The platform has been on this very high pedestal and we've kind of been down here. And what you're suddenly seeing now is this starting to happen very, very, very quickly this year, especially. And Kick are a massive part of making that happen. They are forcing Twitch's hand, and they are forcing competitors to have to be more competitive, or else people will just go stream to Kick. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, competition is so important, because if there's no competition, Twitch will just keep doing what they're doing, because where else are you going to go, right? So it's great to see Kick doing that. It's great to see TikTok going into the live streaming world. It's great to see YouTube constantly looking after their creators and adding more to what they're offering with live streaming. And we're really seeing a monumental year in the creator finally being appreciated for the hard work that they have to put in every day, because it should be considered a normal job or a full-time paying job or an hourly salary job. For myself, for example, I'm holding like 70 to 100 people plus on Kick every day. That's a big audience. That's a big brand to market a brand to every day. Why should I not be compensated for my time and effort when I put the work in to get people on the platform? You know? And like I said, that bridge is finally closing, and it's about time.
I agree. On a tiny bit more to do with Kick versus Twitch, in terms of like feature stack, in terms of the percentage chance of people subscribing, in terms of the retention of users coming back to a stream, and also the discovery. As we discussed, the discovery on Twitch is really, really poor for people just getting started out. On those three metrics, how does Kick compare? Are there some improvements? Are there some drawbacks? Or
I think retention is going to be a lot down to the creator, as always. I mean, I'm going to say this blatantly, as I always say, if you're entertaining, that's great. People will stay. If you're not, people won't. It's as simple as that. Like if people like your vibe and who you are, and you're really enthusiastic, or you offer charisma, you're more likely to get people to stay. Whereas if you're very monotone, you're not really someone who people find interesting, people are going to go. It doesn't matter where you stream or create content to. So a lot of that comes down to the creator. And obviously, like Kick is still in beta at the moment. So retention rates on where people are using like the mobile app, or whether they're having issues from using the browser, is probably a little bit less than Twitch, I would say, right now, because there's still a lot of issues. You know, Kick is very much in its infancy. It's still in beta and probably will be for the rest of this year, in my opinion. But for things like chances for people to subscribe or people to find you, the opportunity is massive. And as a creator, you can sell that to your community so much easier, right? If let's say you're the streamer, for example, right, and I'm one of your viewers, am I going to be more likely comfortable to gift you subscribers if I know that only 50% is going of that to you, or 95? You know, so as a and then you could just say, well, why not just do PayPal, right? PayPal is great, donations are great, but the community aspects you get from gifting subs is so what's the word for it? It's so catchy. It's so people want to do it because other people then get subscriptions, and then it makes people feel good. It builds that community, right? That's the whole gifting sub thing, and that's why it's always been like that. So on Kick, people are way more likely, in my opinion, especially if you explain it, to gift to you if they know that their creator that they're supporting is making 95% of that rather than 50 or even 70 for some partners. And in terms of like saturation, well, just to give myself as a case study. So moving to Fortnite, you can imagine extremely saturated game. One of the biggest in the world still, even after 6 years. On Twitch, I am around, God, several pages down. To even find me there, even as a 75 to 100 average streamer, you're going to be looking for a while, because there's people with thousands of views that have built communities and blew up. that are just going to hold that spot, and they're never gonna move. When we were streaming on Kick, I've been top two, if not top three, every single time, and that's pushed me from my 7500 average to around 120 to 200 average, because I'm further up the list. More people are finding me, which means more people are coming into the chat. So, um, in terms of like saturation, it's way less, and there's a real opportunity to get in there now before the market stabilizes out and a lot more people start moving away from Twitch. So get on it while it's early. That's when you'll really kind of like build alongside the platform.
And maybe just another comment on the retention, other than just having great content, being
Yeah.
entertaining, being fun. Are there any little tools, little strategies you can use to just keep, you know, your content on someone's thought?
Yeah, I mean, the platform itself is a carbon copy of Twitch, right? And they don't care about that. They make that very clear that they don't care about that. Their whole strategy is to say, hey, look, basically, we can do what you're doing, just better. So they, in terms of like UI, in terms of what it looks like, in terms of like retaining what the viewer can see, it's basically Twitch, just green. In terms of like what a creator can do aside their content and like what they're playing and doing, I mean, it's just strategies really. Whether you decide to do like challenge streams, or do you decide to make content around TikTok and YouTube and then kind of be like, hey, I'm doing all of this, but I also like live stream over here, so you can try and like pull people through and try and like move your audience over platforms. I think this is the reason that, even though we've not spoken so much about YouTube, the reason that YouTube is set up to succeed so well in the next 5 years is that no matter what you do on YouTube, whether it's videos, long, short, or live stream, they all integrate. You know, the day will come where people are kind of like sick of there being this gap between live streaming and your videos. People want that all in one. People don't want to have to be like, hey, TikTok guys, make sure you come over. YouTube fam, come over. That they need kind of like that all in one platform is the reason that YouTube is set up for the next couple of years to really be the strong force about it. So I think for attention, a lot of it's going to be like, how much do people actually like enjoy your content, and can you traverse people from your short and long form videos into your live streams? So I think a lot of that is really important to keep being yourself and who you are. Don't kind of quote fake it till you make it. And you've also got to remember, every day there's millions and millions of people are streaming. Ask yourself as a viewer, why would I sit in this stream versus anybody else's stream? And if you can give yourself 5 to 10 points and answer that really confidently, then you know you found your route to market as a creator.
Yeah, so we've addressed an awful lot already. I
Yeah,
suppose maybe coming back to people just getting started. If you
mhm,
had to list a discovery platform for streaming, given that at the moment the circumstances, there is this like plethora of different like social media platforms in which you have to try and direct people from
yeah,
one bit to the other. Oh, you want to follow my Instagram? Come over here. If you want to do Twitter,
exactly.
come over
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And at the time being, that's just the way that things are. Um, Given that, do you have any particular strategy or favorite platform to kind of just let people know about you, let people know that you're streaming, let people experience your content for the first time?
Um, the platform that blew me up, as much as I hate to say it because I don't really like the platform that much, but it's insane for content. You can't not be on there, is TikTok, right? The discoverability of that platform is absolutely bonkers. And I certainly wouldn't be in a position that I'm in right now if it wasn't for TikTok and lockdown. That really what brought people to my channel and, gave me my, let's say, come up as a creator. I think places like YouTube doing things like shorts and um other avenues are really trying to catch up with TikTok and what they can offer a creator. But in my opinion, if you had to have like that, the holy grail of getting your content out there and getting people to know who you are, there is no better place than TikTok. If you get one video that goes off on there, it can literally change your life. Like, I know people, including myself, that have experienced that firsthand and overnight become streaming or influencer sensations. Like my average view account during COD lockdown, I went from a 75 average to almost 500 because of a couple of exploding videos. And then once one happens, the next one explodes and the next one explodes, and it creates this domino effect, which means all your other socials then explode. Obviously now, back then COD wasn't that big on TikTok. There wasn't a lot of gaming creators doing COD content, so I kind of like saw the gap Well, and I had a friend who also helped me see that gap and told me about it. And I was like, right, I got to get in here quick before it gets saturated. And I did. And look, it's clearly paid off, right? So seeing that gap and finding that gap in the market is going to help a lot. So yeah, to answer the question, TikTok, you can't not be on there. You can't not be creating content today, because if you're not, you're doing yourself a disjustice as a creator.
It must have been a huge dopamine rush when you first got that
Oh,
initial viral.
bro, just to explain it to anybody who was watching this, right? I will give you the exact night where it happened. I was in the Discord with my friends. Bearing in mind, this was back in the day before I uploaded any edited content. There was no intros. It was literally a COD clip ripped from Twitch, put onto TikTok with some little subtitles that I added. That was it, right? The most plain Jane content of me just popping off on COD. And I think at the time I was on around 50 something followers. I'd only been on TikTok with my own account for about probably a week or two. And I think this was during lockdown. I think this was like a couple of weeks into lockdown. And I just remember just like, I've refreshed my page and it said, oh, you gained 6 new followers. I was like, wow, that's fast. I'm not gaining that much in TikTok that quick. And I was like, oh, guys, my people are commenting on my video. This is going pretty crazy. And I was like, oh, I'll just check it again real quick. I scrolled it again, 15 new followers. I was like, what? I was like, what's going on? And then I started I constantly refreshing it and it just kept saying 10, 20, 50. And then it skyrocketed, bro. It went from 98 to 5K, I think, literally within 2 days. And as a new creator on the platform, I was like, what is going on? And at the time, because not a lot of people were doing COD content, the natural transition between Twitch and TikTok was a lot easier to make. So I was noticing hundreds of followers overnight on my Twitch. I'd go back on the next day after streaming, look at my activity feed, and I'd be scrolling for ages. I'd be like, who are these people? And they've all followed me because of my TikTok. And then it just kept going, and it just kept going and going and going all the way up to where I am today, which is almost 300K. I plateaued a lot of times at around 50K. I've plateaued at around 80K and then plateaued at 110. I've constantly hit plateaus, but I've constantly slowly started climbing again. So I'm at, I think, around 285K now, but I've also had to, convince a whole market of previous COD people to now follow me over to Fortnite. So as you can imagine, it's not easy. But rather than starting a new account on TikTok, I've just tried to transition myself over. And it's starting to go pretty well right now. Some of my Fortnite videos are gaining some real traction. But yeah, that first day, that dopamine hit, oh my Lord. I was like, oh my God, I'm making it. This is it. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. And that's when I knew I had to keep posting clips every day. No excuse. And then that's where it became very competitive because other people saw what I was doing. They're like, wait, why am I not making COD content on TikTok? And suddenly lockdown explodes COD creators. It becomes a lot harder to keep the viewer engaged. You have to start adding intros and, COD over the last couple of years has declined anyway in general. So that makes it even harder. There's a variety of factors, but yeah, it all came down to me finding the gap. I got in at the right time because if I waited another year, I'd have missed the opportunity. Simple as that.
Do you have any tools or strategies for trying to find new gaps? Is there any process that you do? Is there any kind of research tactic?
That's a hard question because these days the gap is very hard to find because there's so many people trying to find it. But this is what opportunities like Kick are great. And I understand people's speculation first. If you see a news, right? If you see, let's use Kick as an example, right? You see this brand new streaming platform come out of nowhere. At the very minimum, you should go on there and secure your username, no matter what happens to it, right? Go on there, secure your username, because just in case it does blow up, you're there ready to go. And what I did is I made sure that I got myself at least verified on there and got myself to around, 500 to 1,000 followers. So I've got a bit of reputation behind me. And then I left it for a while and just went to focus on Twitch. I had to hit obligations. I couldn't fully commit to Kick or anything just yet. So if you're on Twitter and you're scanning the streaming area and you see a lot of people are talking about a certain subject, there's probably a reason behind it, particularly with platforms. And you're going to see, in my opinion, a lot more Kicks appearing over the next couple of years. Kick won't be the last. There's going to be people coming out there that are going to try and rival TikTok. YouTube are going to have new competitors over the next few years. You better believe it, because this market now is only just really getting into a stage where creators can really, aside the guys at the very, very top, the medium guys now can stabilize ourselves. I would class myself in the kind of mid-tier bracket, that if we start earning contracts, if we start getting paid for being there per hour, we can start stabilizing, which means we can be there more. And then that's going to start funneling down even further. So you're only just starting to see now streaming move into this area where it's going to become a lot more people's full-time jobs. And that is going to mean there's going to be more opportunities, which means new platforms, which means more gaps. So you just have to be quick-witted about it, really. If you see a new opportunity come up, stop thinking, I've got this many followers on Twitch. My community are here. They probably won't support me on the platform. They will. You just need to know how to transition that. Don't allow yourself to be held back by the platform. End of the day, go where it's hot. And if you've got a strong enough bond with your community, they'll support you anywhere you go. 100%. I'm living proof of that. So
Maybe we can finish off. Do you have any kind of words of wisdom, motivation for those that are, if you imagine yourself maybe at the 3-month mark, so you're midway between getting to the point where you're like, holy shit, it's taking off. And you don't know where things are going. You're not, maybe not, you don't have such a clear plan. For people in that situation, like right now, what would you say to them?
I mean, in some ways, I'm kind of back to that position in that because I had to change the game that I'm playing because I'm starting to build a new platform on Kick and starting to build this new YouTube channel. I have, in some ways, even though I have my community now, I'm back to that position. I'm back to the I don't know what's going to happen in future. And what you have to know is that unfortunately, that uncertainty of like what's happening is never going to change. And there are some people who thrive on that because they love the uncertainty. They love that they have to keep adapting, something that keeps really challenging them. And there are some people that will crumble with that. And I think as the streaming market continues to develop, that's going to become even more rapid. So my advice to you is that if you're thinking about going into this full time or you really want to take this seriously, you have to be prepared for that. You cannot put all your eggs in one basket. You cannot just get comfortable and be like, oh, I've done this now. This is fine. I'm chilling. Every day you have to wake up like you're not like fighting for your life because that's going to sound weird, but every day you've got to wake up with a self-motivation of, I need to kill this today. I need to absolutely smash this today. Because if you don't, somebody else will. It's as simple as that. And it's the same with anything in life, right? If you don't go into, if you create a business, whether it's a food business, whether you're doing this, whether you're doing that, if you're not going into it every day with full confidence and full appreciation of wanting to build your brand, how do you expect anybody else to support that? You have to be your biggest motivator and you have to wake up every single day and go, this is it. I need to push it today. And if you can't do that, unfortunately, it may not be for you. Or maybe just do it for fun and just do it as a side thing because there's nothing wrong with that either. So that's more for like the full-time people in that. Self-motivation is very, very, very important. In fact, I'd probably put that at number 1.
You just got to throw yourself, basically.
You have to get in the mindset of waking up every morning thinking, I'm gonna smash this. Because if there's any doubt at all in your head, somebody else is smashing it that day. You've missed out. You've lost out because you're not giving it your all. You're not putting your all behind your brand. You're showing people that you don't back yourself. And what's that going to make people think? They're like, well, how can I support someone who doesn't even see themselves succeeding? And it comes back to the point that we said at the very start of this. People are generally attracted to people who are successful and to people who radiate a very positive and very like welcoming aura. So if you're that kind of person, this is 100% for you. You just have to know how to adapt.